Bandai Namco has made a tweet saying that the Studio BB, the developers of Super Robot Wars, has a message for us, and the message says that they are officially working on a brand new Super Robot Wars games now. So we technically already knew that the series was still in development because obviously Super Robot Wars 30 was a huge hit, like in a past live stream at least 2 or 3 years ago. The producers were saying that it was one of the top 5 best-selling games in the whole franchise in 30 years of Super Robot Wars, which makes a lot of sense thanks to its worldwide release and its release on Steam especially. So it's no wonder that Super Robot Wars 30 managed to be such a huge hit. And so yeah, so they confirmed they're working on a brand new Super Robot Wars game, but they didn't specify whether it's going to be an OG game or a classic game. And it could be as well be an OG game because the supervisor of the series, Terada Takunobu-san, back when the 30th anniversary of the series happened in 2021, he mentioned that he was working on the script of a new OG game, but he didn't say when it's going to release, and he said that they were focusing on the release of Super Robot Wars 30 first. So that's why there's still nothing. And he also said that he would like to end the series, so he didn't specifically say that the next OG game will be the ending to the series, but he said that they're properly thinking about ending the series. And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a new OG game soon, because these last few years they released a lot of new toys for the OG robots. And like there's tons of OG robots that got some brand new toys, like the Gunleon. Like Gunleon technically isn't in the OG games, but you had the R1, you had the Altazane, you had the Bane Boxer, the X-Bane Boxer, and you had the Bantrios that got a toy as well. So, like, there's no way with all these new Shogokin and all these new toys that they released for the OG series, there's no way. And Yaldabov, the Shura mech, the Volkaz mech got a new toy as well, like around 1 year ago. So, like, obviously, there's definitely going to release a new OG game at some point. And I announced there's going to be a live stream on August 23rd. And don't get too excited for this, because this is going to be the usual live stream focusing on Super Robot Wars DD, the gacha game, and focusing on brand new toys announcements. So they're not going to announce some new game there. They will announce a new game like maybe before the end of the year. I don't know, but this isn't going to be at that stream. So that stream is going to feature the usual people and also the Azakami Yohei, the seiyuu for the protagonist of Super Robot Wars DD. And they might release a brand new Crossing Pilot event as well. The Crossing Pilot events are the things that are specific to Super Robot Wars DD. It's basically a pilot from a specific series piloting a robot from another series. The very first one was back in 2020. The very first one was Lelouch from Code Geass in Ring Zero, and then you had Amirore piloting Mazinger Z. You also had the Fillmore Talpani characters piloting Voltes 5, and you had Masaki piloting a Bilebine. You also had, I think it was, you also had. What was his name? AG from Leisner piloting a Scope Dog from Vodams. Well, this is Zero in the Ring Zero. You had a lot of crossing pilots events like this. You had Masaki in a Bilbine, Sosuke and the rest of the Fillmore Talpani characters in Voltes 5. And AG in a Scope Dog. Earlier this year, we also had the Evangelion characters with Asuka piloting Getter 1, and Asuka and Rei and Shinji piloting Getter Robo. So this is the crossing pilot things. They're probably going to announce a new one at this stream. So I'm looking forward to what will it be like. They pretty much did a lot of very classic, very fan-servicey classics they could have done. Like Asuka and Getter is something like a lot of fans already imagined. So I'm really looking forward to what kind of thing it will be. And the stream will be 5 hours long, because as usual, the first 2 hours also will be the usual stream, and then the rest of the time will be the Super Robot Wars EX program, they call it that. Basically, since at least 3 years or 2 or 3 years, the supervisor of the series, Terada Takanobu, and one of the ex scenarists and the ex producers of the series, Morizumi Soichiro, who was the producer of the Namco cross Capcom, and basically all the Project Cross Zone series and the Mugen no Frontier series. Basically, at first it was Namco Cross Capcom on PS2, and then Mugen no Frontier Super Robot Wars OG Saga on Nintendo DS, and then Project Cross Zone. All of these games are connected. They have the same protagonist called Reiji and Xiaomu, and he's the main writer for these two characters. And their stories ended with Project Cross Zone 2, and then he left Bandai Namco after that. So it's unlikely they will do a new crossover game like this. So yeah. And he used to be independent for a bit, and then he joined another company nowadays, and he also streams on YouTube. And so yeah, so for at least 3 years now, him, Morizumi Soichiro, and Terada Takanobu together, after every Super Robot Wars official stream, they do a kind of less official thing where they do a let's play of Shin Super Robot Wars on PS1. Because if I remember correctly, it was basically the first game where they both worked on together or something like this, and they play the game for hours and they discuss old development stories and old anecdotes, etc. And sadly, I never had the time to make some summaries of all this, but it's always extremely interesting to listen to. And so yeah, on the stream we also have the Seiyu Azakami Yohei, the protagonist of Didi, and Nagaku Yuki, one of the heroines of the game. So yeah, it's as usual, it's mostly going to be DD focused, so you shouldn't expect the new game announcements to be there. But yeah, it's coming, and I'm really looking forward to this, because obviously Super Robot Wars is one of my favorite series of all time. So I'm hoping the next game will be announced like before the end of the year, and we'll see what it will be. Square Enix has announced they're making a Live Alive 30th anniversary event on September 1st, and it's going to be streamed on YouTube. And it's the first time the game is getting such a big event, like for the 28th or the 25th anniversary or something, or the 30th, 24th anniversary. I remember there was a live stream, but they didn't announce anything. I remember making a summary of that live stream, and it was really cool. And like, this is the first time they're making a big event like this, so I'm really hoping they finally announce a sequel, because I think the director and main scenarist, Tokita Takashi, also really wanna do a sequel. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do a sequel, especially since Octopath Traveler, which is very inspired from this event loop, is actually extremely different. But anyway, Octopath Traveler, which is very similar, very extremely inspired from Live Alive, managed to become such a big hit. So I wouldn't be surprised if Square Enix wanna do a Live Alive sequel as well. For now, they're counting down to the anniversary events with some illustrations, and every day is a new illustration of one of the characters from the original game, from some various artists. These are really, really nice, so you should check out the Twitter account if you wanna see them all. And on August 25th, there's also going to be a concert event, and it's pretty funny because initially I used to think that they would announce something at this concert event, because this was announced first, and then a bit later they announced the September 1st live stream. So I'm definitely going to try and translate the September live stream live. So hopefully they will announce something really cool there. I definitely wouldn't be surprised if the sequel gets announced. I'm really hoping for a sequel. And maybe something with brand new manga artists, each designing some characters. And I guess this time, because nowadays Square Enix has their own publishing manga company. I don't know, many people don't know this, but for example, Fullmetal Alchemist is published by Square Enix in Japan, and it's a Square Enix IP, so that's why Square Enix is making the games as well. And so I wouldn't be surprised if they get the mangaka for Fullmetal Alchemist and the mangaka for other popular Square Enix published manga to do the character design for a new Live Alive game, and with 8 new characters, each designed by a new recent Square Enix affiliated mangaka. So yeah, I'm really excited for this and how it could turn out. So I will definitely try to cover this maybe live on my blog. So very much check it out on the description. And so the last thing I wanted to talk about in this shorter than usual episode is, like many other Japanese companies, Kadokawa published some its financials recently, and they most notably, one interesting thing is that they said that From Software's preparation to expand its own publishing range has progressed. So, like Dr. Sakantoro is saying, it's very likely that Bandai Namco will stop publishing From Software games worldwide, and From Software and Kadokawa will be handling that themselves starting from now. And it's very interesting for several reasons, and I'm quite surprised that Kadokawa didn't make this move earlier, because ever since like Dark Souls 2 also, Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 2 and 3, like and ever since Bloodborne as well, like it's been like over 10 years now since From Software games have become quite mainstream. So I'm surprised that they didn't try Kadokawa even all these years. It took them all these years to try and make it so they publish the games themselves worldwide, because this will make them much more money. And it's very funny because, like, a lot of people, I don't know why, but a lot of people, they tend to think that From Software is independent, and that's not true. From Software is not an independent studio, and they're owned by Kadokawa, and Kadokawa is one of the biggest multinationals, biggest companies in Japan, and they are a huge publisher. They publish tons of manga, tons of magazines, and for example, they are the publishers of the Famitsu magazine and Dengeki magazine as well. So that's always why I always say that Famitsu and Dengeki are technically the same magazine, because even if they're different, they have different people working there, they're actually owned by the same company. And Kadokawa also owns Nico Nico Doga, which just made a comeback after its cyber attack. They also own tons of manga publishers and tons of light novel publishers. So for example, Kadokawa, they are the owners of the Dragon magazine. They're the owners of New Type magazine, which is ongoing like since 1985. One of the most popular anime magazine in Japan. They also own Fantasia Bunko. Fantasia Bunko is light novel publisher of many of my favorite series of all time, like Slayers, the best fantasy series of all time, and one of my favorite series ever. Fullmetal Panic, another one of my favorite series ever. Scarlet Princess, Black Blood Brothers, High School D&D, like Data Live as well. Kadokawa owns all of these IPs. Like if you look up, for example, Fantasia Rebuild, which was a crossover game that they tried to do a few years ago on smartphones. Sadly, it didn't work out. It closed after like 2 years or something. It was a crossover with many Kadokawa series. So yeah, you have Lina from Slayers, you have the High School D&D girl, I think Reis or something she was called. You have the protagonist of Densetsu no Yusha no Densetsu. You have Sosuke from Fullmetal Panic. You have the girl from Sainai Heroine no Sodatekata. I forgot her name because I don't care about this series. You have Toka from Data Live. You have Chaika from Hitsugi no Chaika. You have tons of characters. They're all owned by Kadokawa. So Kadokawa is one of the biggest companies in Japan. So it's always funny when people go From Software as independent. To be honest, it even kind of pisses me off, because sometimes you even have some like high-profile journalists who are paid much more than me. They make some posts about like how some Microsoft or whatever could buy up From Software, but that's not possible. That's not possible in the first place, because From Software is not independent. Like, it's not an independent company. But a lot of people forget this or don't know this, and sadly they don't know much about like Japanese companies, and people just don't educate themselves, and it's really weird. They're always just stuck up in the past and in the same ideas they had for a long while. Just like people who say Konami isn't making games when, like, for 10 years now, like they say, they're selling millions of copy of Power Puro, they're selling millions of copy of Momotaro Dentetsu, etc. So, like, it's pretty. I don't know why people are so stuck up on past information instead of updating their information. And yeah, From Software is owned by Kadokawa, so there's no way Kadokawa will ever let them go. And so yeah, so Kadokawa is going to starting now. Kadokawa is very likely, like in a few months or something, Bandai Namco will stop publishing the games, and Kadokawa will start publishing the games themselves worldwide. So it's a very big change. I'm looking forward to what will happen from now on. And yeah, so From Software, like, is I'm rather surprised to see how From Software has become such a mainstream company now, and how their games, like, I was so surprised the Armored Core 6 got so popular, and how mainstream From Software games became. And it's just a few levels below the most mainstream games like Call of Duty, etc. Like nowadays, people see the From Software logo on a game and they buy it immediately without thinking. So it's crazy. So yeah, I think that's the last thing I want to talk about. Speaking of Kadokawa games, they make a lot of things. They also have their own company, Kadokawa Games, which got renamed into Dragami Games a few years ago. So there's the makers of Demon Gaze, Relayer, God Wars, Root Letter, Root Film, etc. One game they make in particular that I like is Love R. It was a game released in 2019 on PS4 and Switch. It's a Bishoujo Garge dating simulator with some pretty funny scenarios, like each route for the 6 girls. It's pretty interesting. And this week they released a brand new DLC with some yukata costumes and some masks for the characters. You can make them wear. So I really like this game, and I played sporadically, like for like 5 years, because you can just take some photos of the girls and take some cute photos. And over on Twitter, they regularly do some photo contests as well. So, like, the game is pretty funny. If you can speak Japanese, you should check it out. It's fully voiced. It has a lot of popular seiyuu like Ishikawa Yui as well. So you can speak Japanese, or if you wanna practice, because it's fully voiced, you should check it out. So that's it for today's episode, I guess. And remember to like and subscribe, and thanks for watching. Bye.